The city was alive with lights, sounds, and the restless energy of a colony that never truly slept. Neon signs flickered over narrow streets, hovercars zipped above like glowing insects, and robotic vendors called out their offers in voices both melodic and mechanical. Among the crowd, Captain Elias Kale moved like a shadow, calm and unhurried, his eyes scanning the throngs of people with the careful attention of someone trained to notice danger before it happened. On this particular night, danger was less about crime and more about chaos, the kind that comes from a drunken human staggering through the middle of a street where hover cars had the right of way. Lyra Soren weaved through the crowd, her steps uneven, her balance shaky. Her usually pristine lab coat hung loosely over her shoulders, smudged with wine stains, and her hair fell in wild strands over her face. She laughed at nothing in particular, bumping into a small droid carrying snacks which chirped indignantly before trundling away. Her mind buzzed with the excitement of the celebration earlier in the evening. A successful test of her latest project had left her both elated and carelessly drunk. She had spent hours explaining the science behind it to colleagues who pretended to listen, but she barely remembered the details now. She stumbled over a raised paving strip and would have fallen directly into the path of a passing hovercar if Elias hadn't stepped in. He caught her arm firmly, pulling her back just in time. His grip was steady, professional, but gentle enough not to alarm her. "You can't just wander out there," he said, his voice calm but commanding. "Do you have any idea how dangerous this street is?" Lyra blinked at him, her brain struggling to assemble words. I was just exploring." "Life?" she slurred, waving one hand vaguely toward the crowd. Elias shook his head. "Exploring life is safer from the sidewalk." She giggled and leaned on him for support, not out of flirtation but out of pure, unsteady reliance. "You're very serious for a city full of lights." "I'm serious because people get hurt," he replied simply. He noticed her lab coat smelled faintly of alcohol and wine, a dangerous combination with the energy street they were on.
"I'll walk you home. You clearly can't manage it alone."
Lyra's brows furrowed as she tried to protest, but she soon realized that arguing while unsteady was pointless. She allowed him to guide her through the bustling streets, the neon lights casting shifting colors on their path. Elias kept her away from the edges of the sidewalks where small gaps allowed hovercars to slip dangerously close, and from the drone lanes where delivery bots moved at incredible speed. Every so often, he had to pull her back when she leaned too far over a railing or tried to chase some fleeting curiosity. As they walked, Lyra's mind began to wander between coherent thoughts and drunken fragments. She wanted to tell him about her project, about the research she had barely shared with anyone, but the words came out jumbled. If humans could adapt faster than anything else. "Imagine," she said, trailing off as she tried to form a sentence that made sense. Elias glanced at her, curious despite himself. He had heard scientists talk about ambitious ideas before, but her words, even drunken, seemed to carry weight, a hint of something that could be dangerous if misunderstood or misused. "Imagine what?" he asked, cautious but polite. Lyra shrugged, swaying slightly. "Imagine being able to survive anywhere, any world, any species. No limits." Her speech was halting, but the conviction behind it struck him. There was no mockery in her tone, only the kind of hope and obsession that came from someone who believed they had discovered something the universe had never seen before. "You're talking about human enhancement," Elias said slowly. "Making people stronger, faster, adaptable to everything?" Lyra's eyes widened. Yes, exactly. But they'll never understand. Yet, she sighed, tilting her head against his shoulder for a moment before pulling back. I don't even know if it's safe." Elias kept walking, alert, but with a growing curiosity. He wasn't usually drawn into scientists' dreams. His life was filled with tactical decisions, security protocols, and risk assessment. Yet something about Lyra's words sparked a different kind of attention. She wasn't just drunk or rambling. There was real substance behind her slurred confession. Their route took them through the lower levels of the city, where the celebration hadn't reached, and the streets were narrower, darker, and less forgiving. Polo ads projected images of alien landscapes, entertainment, and colony propaganda on walls that were otherwise bare and grimy. The combination of dim lighting and uneven pathways made it all the more dangerous for someone as unstable on their feet as Lyra. At one point, she almost tripped over a loose metal panel on the walkway. Elias grabbed her just in time, steadying her with both hands. "Careful," he said. "One wrong step here and it's over." She laughed, a soft, breathless sound that didn't reach her eyes. I'm fine. I'm fine, really. You're not," he replied simply. He looked around briefly, scanning for potential threats, noting the faint hum of surveillance drones and the distant glow of patrolling hovercars. In a city full of advanced technology, a human error like hers could have fatal consequences. Eventually, they reached a quieter residential sector, where the streets widened slightly and the neon glow faded to the soft light of home facades. Lyra's apartment was on the 5th level of a sleek, modular building that hovered slightly above the ground. She fumbled with her keys, dropping them twice before Elias caught them mid-air. "Here," he said, handing them to her with a steady hand. "Make sure you don't fall again." She smiled weakly, a little embarrassed. "Thank you, Captain. I don't remember the last time someone helped me like this." Elias shrugged, leaning against the doorway. "It's my job to help people, even drunk scientists." Once inside, Lyra sank into a chair, rubbing her temples. Her apartment was a mix of organized chaos and brilliance. Holographic diagrams floated above desks, alien specimens were carefully preserved in small containment units, and screens displayed a mix of research data and galaxy maps. She looked at Elias and realized she had exposed herself in a way she hadn't intended. Maybe I shouldn't have said all that," she murmured. "It's too dangerous if someone hears it." Elias nodded. "You don't have to explain it fully to me right now, but I'm going to make sure no one takes advantage of it." His tone was firm, protective, yet there was no condescension. Lyra laughed softly, more at herself than anything. "You're very serious for someone who just walked me home." "I take threats seriously," he said simply, "especially when humans are involved." For a moment, Lyra studied him. There was something about his calmness, his awareness, and his decisiveness that made her feel safe in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. She wanted to say more, to reveal the full scope of her research, but the alcohol in her system and the fear of being discovered kept her silent. Instead, she let out a quiet sigh, leaning back in her chair. "I guess, thank you for everything. I didn't expect it." Elias allowed himself a small, almost imperceptible smile. "Sometimes people surprise us. Tonight, you surprised me." The room was quiet for a moment, the faint hum of containment units and computers filling the silence. Lyra stared at the holographic projection of a distant planet spinning slowly above her desk, her thoughts a mix of exhilaration and worry. Her discovery, her project, was dangerous. If it fell into the wrong hands, it could change the balance of power in the galaxy. And yet, for the first time, she realized she wasn't alone. There was someone who could help protect it, someone who could help her navigate the dangers that surely lay ahead. Elias Kale was no scientist, but he understood danger, risk, and strategy in a way that complemented her brilliance. As the night deepened and the city outside continued its restless hum, Lyra felt a strange combination of relief and anticipation. She had revealed a fragment of her secret to a stranger, a human who could make a difference. and she sensed that everything was about to change. Elias, standing near the door, watched her carefully. He didn't fully understand the implications of her slurred words, but he recognized the spark of something monumental. Somewhere in that drunken confession lay a truth that could alter humanity's place in the stars, and he would make sure she had the chance to see it through, even if it meant stepping into dangers he had never faced before. The city beyond the apartment walls seemed louder now, more alive, as if it too had noticed the shift in the quiet room. Two humans, one drunk scientist and one vigilant captain, were about to embark on a journey that neither of them could yet imagine. A journey that would test ingenuity, courage, and the very limits of what it meant to be human. And as Lyra finally allowed herself to rest, still slightly trembling from the night's events, neither of them knew that the small, careless words she had spoken while drunk were about to set the galaxy on a new course. Lyra woke with a headache that pulsed like the distant neon of the city streets outside her window. Her eyes squinted against the early light streaming through the blinds, and she groaned as the memory of last night slowly surfaced. She had been drunk, had been staggering through the streets, and Captain Elias Kale had saved her. She could still picture his steady hands, the calm in his eyes, the way he had guided her through danger. Sitting up, she rubbed her temples and glanced around her apartment. Nothing had been disturbed, nothing stolen. For a moment, relief washed over her, and then the weight of what she had said hit her. Her drunken words, the fragments about humans adapting faster than anything else, were not just random nonsense. They were the beginnings of a confession, an admission of the secret project she had worked on in isolation for years. The door chimed. Lyra froze, unsure if it was her imagination or if someone had actually arrived so early. Another chime followed. Hesitant, she got up and moved toward the door. It was Elias. He stood there, still in his security uniform, his posture precise, alert. His expression was calm, but his eyes held a curiosity that made Lyra tense. "You're awake," he said simply.
"Good. We need to talk."
Lyra swallowed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Talk about what?" He stepped inside, scanning the apartment as he moved. "About what you said last night, about your project." His tone was careful, measured, but there was no mistaking the seriousness behind it. Lyra backed toward the kitchen counter, unsure if she should confess fully. She had trusted no one with her work, not even her closest colleagues. I didn't mean... I wasn't fully aware of what I said." Elias nodded slowly. "Maybe not. But I think I understand more than you realize. You're working on something dangerous, something that could change humans forever." Lyra blinked. "Dangerous? No, I mean it's meant to help. Humans are fragile. We survive, yes, but only barely. I wanted to make us more capable. Adapt faster, think faster. Survive anywhere." Elias listened quietly, his mind already running through the implications. He had been trained to protect humans, to predict threats, to assess risk. And yet, this project, was unlike anything he had seen. "And if the wrong people find out about it?" he asked. "What happens then?" Lyra shivered at the thought. "They'd weaponize it, or destroy it. I've been careful, but last night I let it slip." Elias's gaze hardened. "We can't let that happen. Not to you, not to your work, not to humanity." Her heart skipped a beat. The weight of his words, the certainty in his tone, made her feel both relieved and nervous. You mean you'll protect it?" He gave a small nod. "Yes, and I need to know everything. Every detail, starting with what it actually does. For the first time in years, Lyra felt a strange combination of fear and hope. She moved to her lab desk, pulling up a holographic display that showed complex diagrams of alien physiology, human neural patterns, and adaptive gene sequences. It's more than just genetics, she began. I've developed a system, a way to accelerate human adaptation, not through machines, not through drugs, but through controlled environmental stressors, cognitive conditioning, and selective neural enhancement. In theory, a human exposed to the right sequence of challenges could survive anywhere: extreme heat, cold, radiation, alien atmospheres, even hostile biomes. They could think faster, react faster, learn faster. Elias studied the holograms, his brow furrowed. So you're saying humans could outmatch aliens in ways they wouldn't expect?
Lyra nodded. Exactly. But it's experimental. It's
Risky. I haven't tested it fully. And last night, I was careless. Elias leaned back, folding his arms. We'll deal with the carelessness later. Right now, we need to focus on the threat. He gestured toward the window. I'm not sure you realize how exposed your work is. Someone could already be watching you. Watching? Who? How? He shook his head. I don't know yet. But anything this valuable is bound to attract attention. Alien factions, human rivals, even internal politics could turn against you if they knew. We need to move before anyone acts. Her mind raced. She had always assumed her research could remain secret, hidden in her apartment lab and encrypted in colony servers. But Elias's words made her realize how naive that was.
move. Where?
Elias's expression softened, but his voice remained firm. Somewhere. Somewhere you can continue your work without being discovered. I know a place. Lyra hesitated, glancing at her apartment, the lab she had built with her own hands. And, you'll come with me? I will, he said simply. You're not going alone, and neither is your project. The decision made, they began preparations. Lyra packed her essential research equipment, data cores, portable lab modules, and a few personal items. Elias handled security protocols, ensuring no tracking devices remained in the apartment. They moved quickly, silently, aware that every moment they lingered increased the risk of discovery. As they left the building, the streets of the colony were waking. Early workers moved along the sidewalks, hovercars hummed above, and delivery drones scuttled past. To anyone else, Elias and Lyra were just two humans walking, but to trained eyes, they were carrying something priceless. Their destination was a hidden hangar at the edge of the city, known only to a handful of trusted individuals. Inside, a small ship waited, sleek, low profile, designed for speed and stealth rather than comfort. Elias piloted while Lyra monitored the route, ensuring they avoided heavily patrolled zones. During the flight, Lyra tried to explain more about her project. The adaptation, it's not just physical, it's mental, emotional. Humans could learn to communicate with alien species more efficiently, anticipate environmental hazards, even predict behavior patterns. Elias listened, impressed, despite himself. That's incredible, but also terrifying. If someone uses it wrong, Lyra nodded. I know. That's why I never shared it. And last night, I almost ruined everything. He glanced at her, his gaze steady.
You didn't. Not entirely.
You've got me now, and we'll make sure it stays safe. For the first time, Lyra felt the weight on her shoulders lighten slightly. The burden of secrecy, of responsibility, of potential disaster was still heavy. But she wasn't alone. Elias's presence was a reassurance she hadn't realized she needed. Hours passed as they traveled to the outskirts of the system. Elias maneuvered the ship through asteroid fields and stealth zones, avoiding detection. Lyra monitored communications, ensuring no signals were being tracked or intercepted. The tension between them was silent but palpable. Neither needed to speak to understand the stakes. Finally, they arrived at the hidden outpost. A small human settlement, carved into the side of a massive asteroid. Its exterior was rugged, utilitarian, but inside it was surprisingly comfortable, equipped with basic lab facilities and defensive systems. It wasn't a palace, but it was safe. Lyra stepped inside, breathing a sigh of relief. For the first time in months, she felt like she could work without constantly looking over her shoulder. "It's perfect," she whispered. Elias nodded. "It'll do for now. But be aware, this is only temporary. We'll need to move again if anyone gets too close." As they set up the lab, Lyra's mind wandered back to her drunken confession. It had been unintentional, a slip of words while intoxicated. But it had changed everything. Elias had taken it seriously, believed in the potential of her work, and committed to protecting it. That simple act, that small decision, had set them on a path neither of them could have predicted. Later that evening, while checking the security systems, Lyra noticed something alarming. A faint signal pinged near the outer edge of the asteroid's surveillance range. It was weak but deliberate. Someone, or something, was scanning the outpost. Elias noticed it immediately. "You see that?" Lyra nodded, tense. "Yes, could be someone tracing our route." He frowned, his tactical mind already calculating options. "We need to assume the worst." "This wasn't random. They know about your work, or at least they suspect it." Lyra's heart raced. "Do you think it's aliens?" Elias shrugged slightly.
Could be. Could be humans.
Could be both. Whoever it is, they're powerful and dangerous.
"We can't underestimate them." The reality of their situation hit Lyra. Her research, her project, what she had thought was just a theoretical experiment, was now a target. And she realized that last night, in her drunken state, she had set a chain of events into motion that could change the fate of humans in this sector of space. Elias placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll handle it. One step at a time. For now, focus on your work. I'll handle security. We're stronger together than they expect." Lyra nodded, feeling a mixture of fear and determination. The morning confession that had seemed inconsequential while she was hungover had become the turning point of her life. She knew now that the universe had taken notice of her work, and humanity was about to face challenges it had never encountered before. And as she looked at Elias, standing firm beside her, she realized something else. She wasn't just grateful for his protection. She was beginning to trust him with a secret that could reshape the future, and trust, she knew, was the first step toward survival. The asteroid outpost was quiet, but the silence carried tension. Elias Kale stood at the edge of the observation deck, staring into the black expanse of space. Tiny points of light blinked like distant stars, but some were not stars. His trained eyes picked up movement patterns that were too deliberate, too coordinated to be random. Lyra Soren worked in the lab, her hands steady as she calibrated one of her adaptive devices. Her mind, however, was restless. Last night's drunken confession had launched a chain of events that she couldn't ignore. The faint signal they had detected earlier still lingered in her sensors, a reminder that someone, human or alien, was watching. Elias approached, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We can't stay here forever. They'll find us if we linger too long." Lyra looked up, her eyes clear despite the tension.
I know, but if we move too fast, my equipment won't be ready.
"I need time to finalize the prototype, test it safely before anything interferes."
He nodded. "Then we make time."
"But we need to prepare for a chase. Whoever is tracking us isn't going to give up easily." The following hours were a blur of preparation. Lyra secured her research data in encrypted cores, her devices packed into reinforced cases. Elias checked the ship, running diagnostics. making sure every system was ready for evasive maneuvers. Even the asteroid outpost's small defense grid was tuned to respond automatically to intrusions. They were ready, but neither of them felt secure. As the ship rose from the asteroid's docking bay, the vastness of space welcomed them. But the feeling of freedom was fleeting. Sensors detected a trail, a shadow fleet of small, agile ships weaving through the outer asteroid belt. The alien pursuers were fast, their movements precise. Elias's grip tightened on the controls, his mind racing through strategies. "They're faster than normal patrols," he muttered. "But predictable." Lyra leaned over the console. "If we can manipulate the graviton fields in the belt, we can create turbulence they won't anticipate. It might give us a chance to escape." Elias's eyes narrowed. "You mean using physics as a weapon? Dangerous, but brilliant." They had no time for hesitation. Elias steered the ship into a narrow channel between massive asteroids, while Lyra activated the graviton projectors. Energy ripples warped the surrounding space, creating distortions that slowed and confused the pursuing ships. One by one, the alien ships faltered, some colliding with debris, others spinning out of control. Elias's hands were steady, but his mind was alert to every blip on the radar. "Impressive," he said, glancing at Lyra. "You just turned theory into survival." Lyra allowed herself a small smile, though her nerves were tight. "Humans survive through improvisation," she said. "We find a way when the odds are against us." The human ingenuity paid off. The fleet behind them thinned, some ships retreating to reassess, others disabled entirely. For the first time in hours, the silence of space felt like a fragile victory. They didn't celebrate. There was too much at stake. Elias plotted a course to a distant, uncharted system, where sensors indicated potential hiding spots and safe docking stations. Lyra focused on her equipment, making minor adjustments, ensuring the adaptive devices were functional for immediate testing if necessary. Hours passed, and the tension never fully eased. Lyra watched Elias at the helm, noting the precision of his movements, the calm intensity in his eyes. He wasn't just a protector, he was a strategist, a human at his peak, able to anticipate and react in ways that even the most advanced AI couldn't match. "You're remarkable," she said quietly. He glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "So are you, but we can't afford admiration right now." Her fingers hovered over the control panels, checking calculations, simulations, and environmental readings. The device she had built was designed to enhance human adaptability, to prepare a human for alien worlds and extreme conditions. It was untested in real combat situations, but the logic was sound. If it worked as intended, humans would gain abilities that no alien technology could match. Elias noticed her focus, the intensity in her eyes. "Are you ready to test it?" he asked. Lyra hesitated. "Not fully, but—"
We might not get another chance. They'll find us eventually.
He nodded. "Then we test it." The first human volunteer was Elias himself. Lyra activated the device, the energy fields enveloping him in a soft bluish glow. Sensors monitored physiological and neurological responses. The adaptive system began its work, accelerating reflexes, enhancing cognitive processing, and boosting stamina. Elias moved, testing the limits, and even in zero gravity he reacted with incredible speed and precision. Lyra's eyes widened. "It's working, faster than I expected." Elias's voice was steady, confident.
"Then we're ready for whatever comes next."
And soon enough, the next threat arrived. A fleet of alien ships, larger and more aggressive than the ones before, appeared on the horizon. They were relentless, coordinated, and equipped with advanced weaponry. Elias piloted the ship with enhanced reflexes, dodging energy blasts, weaving between asteroids, and using every maneuver Lyra suggested. The human ingenuity they demonstrated was extraordinary. They rigged mining equipment from the asteroid belt as improvised EMP devices, disabling several enemy ships. They coordinated movements with precision, predicting alien strategies and countering them in real time. Humans, underestimated for so long, were proving their adaptability and resilience in ways the aliens had never anticipated. Lyra monitored the systems, making rapid calculations and adjustments.
Elias, their formation is shifting. They're adapting to our maneuvers.
He gritted his teeth, pushing the ship to its limits. Then we adapt faster. That's what humans do. Energy blasts streaked past, some hitting asteroids and scattering debris. The aliens underestimated the combination of human creativity, technology, and sheer nerve. Lyra guided Elias through complex maneuvers, improvising on the fly, turning the environment into a weapon. One ship collided with an asteroid, another was disabled by an improvised EMP, and the remaining vessels hesitated, unsure how to counter humans who refused to follow predictable patterns. Finally, the alien fleet retreated, regrouping at a safe distance. The immediate threat had passed, but the danger was far from over. Lyra and Elias breathed briefly as the stars around them seemed almost serene after the chaos. Elias glanced at Lyra. They didn't expect humans to fight like this. Lyra nodded, exhausted but exhilarated.
They never do. Humans, we survive, we adapt, we improvise.
That's our advantage. They found a safe harbor on a remote asteroid, one that hadn't appeared on standard star maps.
It was isolated, defensible, and perfect for regrouping. As they docked, Lyra began analyzing the adaptive device's performance. Excited to see the results, humans could now survive conditions that had once been lethal, react faster than most alien species, and think in ways that technology alone could not replicate. Elias watched her work, a mixture of awe and respect in his eyes. "You've done more than invent a device," he said. "You've shown that humans can face anything and still come out on top." Lyra smiled faintly. "It's our nature. We're underestimated, overlooked, dismissed, but when we're pushed, we rise, always." As night fell on the remote asteroid, the two of them stood at the observation deck, looking out at the galaxy. Somewhere in the darkness, alien fleets were plotting, human rivals were scheming, and dangers yet unknown were waiting. But Elias and Lyra had proven something critical. Humans were unpredictable, adaptable, and resilient, and that unpredictability was a weapon in itself. Lyra's thoughts returned to the drunken confession that had started it all. Her words, spoken carelessly, had set them on this path. Elias had taken her seriously, and together they had turned theory into survival. She realized that sometimes the smallest actions, the smallest truths, could change everything. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder.
"Rest now," he said. "We've survived today.
Tomorrow, we keep moving forward, and we keep them guessing." Lyra nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and determination. They had won a battle, but the war for her project, and for humanity's place in the galaxy, was just beginning. She knew now that the universe was paying attention, and humans were ready to rise to the challenge. In that moment, under the endless stars, Lyra and Elias understood that survival was not enough. Humans had the potential to thrive, to outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast. And as long as they worked together, no threat, alien or otherwise, could underestimate them again. The silence of the asteroid outpost was deceptive. Outside, the void of space stretched endlessly, but it hid dangers that could strike at any moment. Lyra Soren moved quickly through the lab, her hands steady despite the tension that pulsed in the air. Every calculation, every adjustment, brought her one step closer to completing the adaptive device. Today, she knew, they would face the challenge that had been building since last night's drunken confession. Elias Kale stood at the observation deck, scanning the empty expanse of space. His mind raced with possibilities, predicting every move the alien fleet might make. They were clever, coordinated, and relentless. But so were humans, especially when they refused to be underestimated. "They're coming," he said simply, his voice calm but sharp. Lyra glanced up from her work. "Already?" I thought we had more time. He shook his head. They've learned. They're faster than before. We need to be ready. In minutes, the sensors picked up multiple ships emerging from the dark, converging on the asteroid. These were not the small, agile pursuers from before. These were warships, heavily armed and built for destruction. Elias's grip tightened on the controls, but his confidence was unshaken. Humans had survived worse, adapted faster, and now, with Lyra's device, they had an edge no alien fleet could predict. Lyra activated the prototype adaptive system. Energy fields enveloped a small team of humans, including Elias. The system began enhancing reflexes, strengthening resilience, and sharpening mental focus. The first wave of adaptation was disorienting, a rush of sensations and thoughts. But as the effects stabilized, the humans moved with precision, speed, and awareness beyond normal human limits. Elias's eyes lit with understanding. "This is it," he said. "This is what humans can do when they're pushed beyond their limits." The first alien ships entered range, energy weapons charging, their designs sleek and menacing. Elias piloted the ship with the enhanced reflexes, weaving through incoming fire, using every asteroid as cover, and predicting enemy movements before they could react. Lyra coordinated attacks from the lab, guiding the team to use their environment as weapons. They rigged old mining equipment from the asteroid belt into makeshift EMP devices. With careful timing, they detonated them in strategic locations, disabling several alien vessels. Humans, underestimated for centuries, now used creativity and adaptability as a weapon. One alien ship broke formation, attempting to flank them. Elias anticipated the maneuver, leading the ship into a narrow asteroid channel. Lyra's calculations predicted exactly how the ship would react, and she guided Elias through a precise, dangerous sequence. The alien vessel collided with an asteroid disabled, spinning out of control. Lyra watched the adaptive system's monitors, her heart racing. Humans were responding faster than she had predicted. Reflexes were enhanced, decision-making accelerated, and instincts honed to perfection. This was no longer just survival. It was evolution in action. "We're gaining the upper hand," Elias said, his voice steady. "But they won't give up easily. They'll adapt." Lyra nodded. "Then we adapt faster. The battle..." Alien ships regrouped, coordinating attacks with ruthless efficiency. But humans, now enhanced and fully aware of their surroundings, responded with strategies that the aliens had never encountered. Small teams moved with flawless synchronization, anticipating threats, exploiting weaknesses, and turning every environmental factor into an advantage. One group of humans, guided by Lyra's calculations, used the asteroid's magnetic fields to alter the trajectory of enemy projectiles. Another team created decoys using old cargo pods, drawing enemy fire away from the main ship. Humans improvised, adapted, and executed plans faster than the aliens could react. Amidst the chaos, Lyra noticed a troubling signal. One of the alien ships was heading straight for the outpost. If it reached the station, their research would be destroyed, and the team trapped. She alerted Elias.
We have a problem. Ship Delta is heading for the lab.
"It's going to breach our defenses if we don't stop it now." Elias's eyes narrowed. "Then we stop it." He maneuvered the ship into a risky intercept course. Using enhanced reflexes, he dodged enemy fire and calculated the exact moment to release a modified EMP pulse. The pulse hit the approaching ship, disabling its shields and weapons systems. The alien vessel crashed into an asteroid nearby, neutralized without causing damage to the outpost. Lyra exhaled, her hands trembling slightly. That worked. "They didn't expect that." "They never do," Elias replied. "Humans are unpredictable." The battle raged for hours, but the tide had turned. Alien ships were retreating, regrouping at a distance to reassess. The human team, guided by Lyra and enhanced by her device, had proven that ingenuity, adaptability, and courage could overcome superior technology. Finally, the immediate threat passed. The outpost was safe, the team unharmed, and the adaptive system had demonstrated its full potential. Lyra sank into a chair, exhausted but exhilarated. Elias stood beside her, his expression one of pride and relief. "You did it," he said.
All of it!
"Humans. Your project? We made it through." Lyra shook her head, still processing the events. "It's not just me. It's all of us. Humans, we survive by adapting, by thinking differently, by refusing to accept limits." Elias nodded. "And now, with your device, we can take that survival to a new level. Humans can face any challenge, any environment, any enemy. We're no longer just reacting. We're evolving." The night sky outside the outpost seemed quieter now, the stars distant and cold, but filled with possibilities. Lyra allowed herself a moment of reflection. Her work, her confession, had led to this moment. A moment where humans had not only survived, but triumphed against overwhelming odds. But the victory was tempered by the knowledge that the universe was vast, full of dangers they had yet to encounter. The alien fleet had retreated, but it would not give up. They would return, perhaps stronger, perhaps more cunning. And yet, humans had learned a valuable lesson. They were not to be underestimated. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "Rest now," he said. "Tomorrow we plan. Tomorrow we prepare. But tonight we celebrate our survival and our ingenuity." Lyra smiled faintly. "We've proven something important today. Humans are capable of more than anyone realizes. We're not weak. We're adaptable. We're unpredictable. And we're strong." Elias nodded. "Exactly. And that strength, that unpredictability, is our advantage. They might have technology, numbers, strategy, but we have ingenuity, courage, and determination, and that's something no one can calculate." As they looked out at the stars, a sense of quiet triumph filled the room. They had faced a superior enemy and survived, not through brute force, but through human creativity, adaptability, and teamwork. The adaptive device had worked beyond expectations, proving that humans could evolve in response to the galaxy's challenges. Lyra reflected on the journey so far, from a drunken confession in a neon-lit city to a battle in the void of space. Every step had led them here. Every small choice, every risk, every moment of trust had mattered. And now, humans were ready to face the next challenge. Elias broke the silence. "Tomorrow we decide our next move. We can't hide forever. The galaxy will notice, sooner or later. And when it does, humans need to be ready." Lyra nodded, her determination solidifying. "Then we prepare, we adapt, and we face it. Together." The stars outside seemed endless, but they no longer felt threatening. Humans had proven their potential, their ingenuity, and their courage. They were no longer just survivors. They were evolving, and the universe, vast and dangerous, would have to reckon with them. As night gave way to the distant glow of a new star system, Lyra and Elias sat in quiet reflection. The battle had been won, but the war for humanity's future had just begun. And with each other's trust, human ingenuity, and the adaptive device, they were ready to face whatever came next. For the first time, Lyra felt a sense of true hope. Her work, her confession, her risk, it had all led to this moment. And now humanity was on the cusp of a new era, one where survival was no longer enough. Humans were ready to thrive, and somewhere in the darkness of space, unseen eyes watched, taking note of the humans who refused to be underestimated, who adapted faster than anyone expected, and who were ready to shape their own destiny. The asteroid outpost had been quiet for hours, but the calm was temporary. Lyra Soren moved through the lab, checking her adaptive devices one last time. Every calculation, every data stream, every adjustment had led to this moment. Her project was no longer theoretical. Humans had demonstrated their potential, and now it was time to understand just how far it could go. Elias Kale stood at the observation deck, scanning the black void of space. Sensors had picked up distant movements, alien fleets reorganizing, small scout ships monitoring from afar. But for now, the immediate threat had not approached. He knew it was only a matter of time. "We can't wait forever," Elias said, turning to Lyra. "Eventually, they'll attack again. We need to take the initiative." Lyra nodded. "I know. And we're ready. Humans are ready." She paused, glancing at the energy field surrounding the small team of volunteers. The adaptive system was now fully operational, enhancing every human who used it. Reflexes, cognition, resilience, problem-solving, all amplified beyond normal limits. Elias studied the volunteers. They moved with confidence, tested their enhanced abilities, and adapted instinctively to simulations Lyra had created. "There. Faster, sharper, stronger," he said, a note of awe in his voice. "They're more than I imagined." Lyra smiled faintly. "They're human. That's the secret. Humans survive because we adapt, because we improvise, because we refuse to accept limits. This device only accelerates what's already inside us." The calm shattered with a sudden alarm. Sensors detected the alien fleet approaching rapidly, larger and more heavily armed than before. Elias moved quickly, coordinating defensive maneuvers with a precision that was enhanced by the adaptive device. Lyra activated the system fully. Energy fields enveloped every human, including herself, amplifying their physical and mental capabilities. The sensation was overwhelming at first, but soon, focus and clarity replaced disorientation. Humans moved faster, thought faster, and reacted instinctively. The alien ships fired in coordinated patterns, but humans anticipated every move. They dodged, countered, and adapted in real time, using the environment to their advantage. Asteroids became shields, mining equipment became weapons, and the team's ingenuity outmatched the aliens' technology. Elias led a daring attack, weaving through enemy fire and drawing a large portion of the fleet into a narrow asteroid field. Lyra's calculations predicted every alien maneuver, allowing the team to strike with precision. The aliens were surprised. Humans were no longer predictable. They were evolving, faster than the aliens could counter. A massive energy blast threatened the outpost, but a human volunteer, enhanced by Lyra's device, intercepted it mid-flight. The blast's energy dissipated harmlessly, leaving the outpost unscathed. The team moved with coordination and efficiency that seemed impossible just hours before. Lyra monitored the battle, her mind racing with calculations and contingencies. "Elias, the flagship is targeting the adaptive core," she warned. "If they hit it, all humans lose the enhancement." He gritted his teeth. "Then we protect it." Using his enhanced reflexes, Elias maneuvered through enemy fire, positioning himself between the flagship and the adaptive core. His instincts, sharpened beyond normal limits, allowed him to predict the enemy's every move. He intercepted a massive energy beam, redirecting it into space with minimal damage. The humans fought with ingenuity and bravery. They exploited weaknesses in alien formations, used the terrain of the asteroid field strategically, and coordinated attacks that no alien AI could anticipate. One by one, the enemy ships fell, disabled, or forced into retreat. The remaining ships hesitated, assessing the humans as a threat they had underestimated. Lyra's mind turned to Elias. He had always been steady, disciplined, and protective. But now, enhanced by her device, he was unstoppable. She realized that the drunken confession that had started all of this, the slip of words about human adaptation, had set them on a path that was reshaping humanity's place in the galaxy. The flagship retreated, followed by the remaining alien vessels. Humans had won this battle not through brute force, but through adaptability, creativity, and courage. The outpost was safe, and the team had proven that humans were a force to be reckoned with. In the aftermath, Elias and Lyra stood together, watching the stars. The adrenaline was fading, leaving space for reflection. Lyra felt a mix of relief, pride, and apprehension. The adaptive device had worked beyond expectations, but the universe was vast, and threats remained. "I can't believe it," Elias said quietly. "Humans, we did this. We actually did this." Lyra smiled, exhausted but triumphant. "We survived because we adapted, because we refused to be underestimated, and because we trusted each other." Elias looked at her, his expression serious. "Lyra, about last night, your confession, it changed everything. You weren't joking. You weren't drunk in the wrong way.
You were right.
Humans can do this. We can be more than anyone expects." Lyra's heart skipped. "I didn't know if anyone would take me seriously. But you believed in it. And that belief made all the difference." He nodded. "We need more people to know, more humans to experience this. Not just the team, not just this outpost. The galaxy needs to see what humans can do." Lyra hesitated, realizing the weight of his words. Sharing the technology was risky. Alien factions, rival human colonies, even political entities could misuse it. But keeping it hidden meant limiting humanity's potential. She took a deep breath. Then, "We share it, carefully, with those who are ready, those who understand responsibility. Humans need to evolve, but wisely." Elias's eyes gleamed with determination. "Then that's what we'll do, together." They spent the next hours reviewing strategies, preparing the team and reinforcing the outpost's defenses. Every detail mattered. Every plan accounted for potential threats. Humans had survived once through ingenuity and adaptability. They would survive again, but this time, they would thrive. As dawn approached, Lyra walked to the observation deck, looking out at the galaxy. Stars stretched endlessly, distant and mysterious. Somewhere out there, alien fleets were regrouping, planning their next move. But humans were no longer the species they had been. Weak, predictable, underestimated. They were evolving, faster and smarter than ever. Elias joined her silently, his presence comforting. "It's beautiful," he said, gesturing to the stars. "And dangerous." Lyra smiled faintly. "All of life is dangerous. But humans, we make the impossible possible." He nodded. "And now, no one can underestimate us." For the first time, Lyra felt the weight of her work and her confession transform into something powerful. The adaptive device was more than science. It was a symbol of human potential, ingenuity, and courage. Humans were no longer just survivors. They were pioneers, explorers, and fighters capable of facing the universe on their own terms. Elias looked at her, his expression softening. "You know, your confession. It wasn't just about the device. It was about trust. About believing that humans are more than what the galaxy thinks. And you were right." Lyra's eyes met his, a mix of gratitude and determination. "We're human. We survive. We adapt. We evolve. And we do it together." They spent the next days reinforcing the adaptive system, expanding it to more humans within the outpost. Volunteers trained, learned, and enhanced themselves, demonstrating abilities that surpassed normal human limits. Reflexes, intelligence, resilience, and coordination all improved dramatically. Aliens who observed from afar began to recognize that humans were no longer a weak species to be ignored. They were a force capable of shaping the galaxy. Elias and Lyra worked side by side, their bond stronger than ever. Trust, respect, and a shared vision guided every decision. The universe was vast, filled with unknown dangers, but humans were ready, not just to survive, but to thrive, to challenge, and to endure. One evening, as the enhanced team gathered in the common area of the outpost, Lyra reflected on how far they had come. From a drunken confession to a full-scale demonstration of human potential, the journey had been unexpected, dangerous, and exhilarating. She realized that humans were not defined by limits, but by the ability to rise above them. Elias approached her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Lyra, no matter what happens next, we've proven something. Humans are unstoppable when we refuse to be underestimated. And now the galaxy will learn that lesson. Lyra nodded, her heart full. Yes, and it starts here, with us. With everyone willing to trust, adapt, and fight for what humans can become. The stars outside the observation deck seemed endless, but they no longer felt threatening. Humans had faced the impossible and emerged stronger. They were clever, adaptable, courageous, and united. Their journey was only beginning, but the first steps had been taken, and the future was theirs to shape. Elias watched the horizon, a sense of pride in his eyes. Tomorrow we continue. We expand, we explore, and we make sure no one ever underestimates humans again. Lyra stood beside him, her gaze steady and determined. Together, she said, always together. And as the first light of a distant star system touched the asteroid outpost, humans, enhanced, empowered, and evolving, prepared to face the universe. The galaxy had underestimated them for too long. Now, humanity was ready to thrive, to adapt, and to claim its place among the stars. The adventure was far from over. But for the first time, humans were no longer just surviving. They were unstoppable.